They say Brina no longer walks like a child, not because she grew older, though she has, but because those who cross the Hollowridge Bridge don't return the same. She walks with silence stitched between her steps now, pauses longer before speaking, tilts her head as if listening to something others can't hear. And some nights, when the fog comes in heavy, the light in her window stays dark, not because she isn't home, but because something else is. It had been weeks since her last crossing, weeks since the mirror chamber beneath the earth, since the flame that wasn't fire and the page hole in her hand, since she returned with more than she left with. She still tried to do normal things. She fetched eggs from the hens, helped the baker's son sweep the shop, stood by the blackberry field as if she were just a girl again. But the air in Nettlescloff didn't feel like it used to, or maybe she didn't. Sometimes people paused mid-sentence near her like they'd forgotten what they were saying. Others blinked more than usual when they looked her in the eye. And more than once, a child passing by would stop suddenly and whisper, "I know your name." Brina began to dream differently. Before, the dreams had been wild and formless, tunnels of symbols, staircases made of shadow. Now they were clearer. She dreamed of names, hundreds of them, carved into walls, sewn into roots, whispered by wind. Some she recognized, old villagers long buried. Others she felt before she could read them. And one name appeared more than any other, her own. She kept a journal now, not just of what Ellric had said, but of things she hadn't yet lived. Visions, symbols, names she didn't recognize but would. One morning she woke to find a new page written in her sleep, not in her handwriting, and not in any language she knew. But she understood it. It read, "Return before it remembers alone." That afternoon, the fog returned, slowly as if unsure it was welcome. And when Brina reached the hill, the Hollowridge Bridge was back. It looked strained, as though being here cost it something. The planks were damp, the railings bent at odd angles, the air above it shimmered, not like heat, but like glass on the verge of cracking. She stepped onto it. The fog leaned in, and at the other end, waiting, barefoot and blinking, was Ellric. He looked thinner, tired but alert, like someone who had stayed awake too long in a room where everyone else was asleep. He said nothing as she approached, but when she reached him, he nodded once and whispered, "It remembers you." She nodded. "I know." They didn't return to the descent. They walked east, into a part of the other side she had never seen. The trees grew wider here, their bark split with thousands of fine lines, not cracks but writing. Tiny names, some only a few letters long, others winding down the trunk like vines. And some trees whispered, softly, low enough you couldn't hear the words, only the shape of them. They passed under a hanging root arch, and the sound changed. The air took on a hum, like breath held by something ancient and patient. Ellric paused by a tree with no name carved into it. He placed his palm against the bark. It pulsed once, warm beneath his touch. "Buried, but not erased," he said. Brina knew he wasn't quoting. He was repeating. They came to a field. No grass, just dirt, wet and dark. Dozens of stones were scattered across it. No pattern, no rows. Each was just slightly turned to the east. Ellric gestured to one. Brina crouched and brushed away the moss. Her name, carved clean, centered. Below it, "She who remembered first." She stared for a long time, then looked up at him. "What is this place?" Ellric tilted his head. "It's where they write the ones who return." She asked who they were. He said nothing, but the wind answered. A hush, a drumbeat, a sound that shaped meaning rather than spoke it. "Names are roots," it said, "and yours grows backward." Brina touched the stone again. It was warm, not like the glowing ones from before. This was different, subtle, like something beneath was breathing against it, and she realized these weren't graves, they were anchors. They walked on. The forest thinned, replaced by wide, low tunnels with ceilings like vaulted bone. Here, the names were different. Not carved, grown. Letters made of root and vein, spelling things she had never seen before but recognized all the same. And in the center of the path, set in the floor, a spiral staircase, not downward, but sideways, curving into a great circular descent, like a sinkhole that forgot to end. Ellric stopped. "This is where I stop," he said. Brina stared into the spiral. "Why?" He smiled faintly. "Because you still have your name." She stepped in. The walls flickered with images as she descended. Faces, places, events that hadn't happened, or maybe had, just not yet. And she saw herself, again and again, making different choices, speaking different truths, holding pages that weren't always whole. She felt dizzy, but didn't stop. At the bottom, a wide chamber pulsed with a dim red glow. At its center, a pool of black water. Still, perfectly flat. Floating above it, a stone, large, circular, and etched with names around the edge. Brina stepped closer. Her name was there, but missing a letter. She blinked, and in that instant, the water rippled. A voice spoke, not aloud, but into her. "You have lived 3 times." She saw flashes. The girl who never asked Ellric anything. The girl who crossed too early. The girl who stayed behind and watched everything burn. And then, her. The one who asked. The one who crossed when it was time. The water shimmered. Something stirred beneath it. A shape, tall, coiled, slow. She didn't flinch, only watched. And the shape paused, then receded. She turned back. The stairs led her up again, but the walls no longer flickered. They glowed, and the names along them hummed in rhythm with her steps. Back at the top, Ellric was waiting, eyes closed, smiling. Not peaceful, relieved. "You came back," he said. "So did you," she replied. The fog was thin at the bridge. Dawn was breaking. She stepped onto the bridge first, felt the old wood shift beneath her boots. But now it felt familiar, not a mystery, a memory. She reached the hill, looked back. Ellric stood in the middle, the fog curling around him. He raised a hand. And then, he was gone. That night in the village, no one spoke to her directly. But someone left a small folded note on her doorstep. It read, "3 more names have bloomed. One of them hums when spoken aloud." There was no signature, just a faint green thumbprint pressed below the words. Brina tucked the note into her journal, lit her lantern, and headed to the hill. Because now she understood. Some bridges don't carry you over, they carry you in. And once you've been remembered, you start remembering back.